Have you ever wondered how to truly understand someone's character? According to Stoic philosophy, character isn't revealed by words or superficial actions, but by how someone responds to the challenges and choices life throws their way. In this video, we'll explore 7 Stoic-inspired clues to help you unveil someone's true nature, and maybe even reflect on your own. Clue number 1, crisis, the ultimate character test. To the Stoics, crises weren't just obstacles. They were opportunities for growth. Life is unpredictable, and challenges will arise. But as Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This Stoic principle teaches us that while we can't control external events, we always have the power to control how we respond to them. In a moment of crisis, our true nature is revealed, not to others, but to ourselves. Crises are the playground for virtue. For Stoics, virtue, qualities like courage, wisdom, justice, and self-control is the ultimate goal. In times of crisis, these virtues come alive. Courage drives us to face difficulties head-on instead of retreating. Wisdom helps us assess the situation calmly and logically. Justice ensures that our decisions consider the well-being of others, and self-control prevents us from acting out of fear or anger. A crisis is not just a test. It's a stage to practice these principles. How to assess reactions during crisis. Crisis reveals the depth, or absence, of someone's Stoic practice. When faced with difficulty, do they remain calm or panic? A Stoic remains centered, accepting what is outside their control. Chaos externally doesn't have to create chaos internally. Do they blame others or take responsibility? Stoics teach accountability. Even when things aren't directly your fault, you still control how you respond. Blaming others is the easy way out, but it shows a lack of self-mastery. Do they act or freeze? The Stoic knows that purposeful action aligned with virtue is the path forward. Inertia, born out of fear or indecision, betrays a lack of clarity. Historical examples of Stoicism in crisis. Throughout history, crises have been moments where Stoic principles shone brightest. Consider Marcus Aurelius, ruling during the Antonine Plague. Despite the massive loss of life and social unrest, he remained steadfast, focusing on what he could control, ensuring stability and maintaining his principles. Another example is James Stockdale, a modern-day Stoic, who endured years of torture as a prisoner of war. By practicing the Stoic discipline of controlling his mind and not surrendering to external horrors, he turned the ordeal into a lesson in resilience. Applying Stoicism to your own crises. When you're in the middle of your own crisis, how do you react? Pause and reflect. Before responding, take a moment to reflect on what is in your control. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to pause and act with reason, not impulse. Focus on what you can influence. The Stoics encourage directing your energy toward actionable solutions rather than lamenting the uncontrollable. Ask what virtues the situation demands. Are you being asked to practice patience, resilience, or courage? Recognize the crisis as an invitation to live your philosophy. Why a crisis is an opportunity. Instead of dreading crises, Stoicism reframes them as opportunities to grow into your best self. Seneca reminds us that difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Just as muscles grow through resistance, character is fortified through challenges. By embracing this perspective, we transform crises into defining moments. Remember, crisis doesn't make or break character, it unveils it. The next time you face adversity, take a moment to ask yourself, how can I respond with courage, wisdom, and control? After all, it's not the crisis itself, but your mindset that defines the outcome. Clue number 2, integrity in private moments. In Stoic philosophy, integrity is not about outward appearances, but about consistency in actions and principles. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This wisdom extends beyond our reactions to life's events to how we act in the absence of external scrutiny. Integrity for the Stoics is a deeply personal commitment to living virtuously, regardless of who's watching or if anyone is watching at all. Why private moments matter. The true test of character happens when the spotlight is off. When we're alone and there's no applause, praise, or validation, we reveal who we really are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." This statement emphasizes that living with integrity is about actions aligned with values, not performative gestures to gain social approval. In private moments, the Stoic principle of self-governance shines. It's not about fear of judgment from others, but about maintaining accountability to yourself. The role of conscience in Stoicism. The Stoics emphasize the importance of conscience as an internal guide. Seneca put it succinctly, "The soul should stand unmoved, ready for whatever happens, and be prepared for judgment." For Stoics, the opinion of others is secondary to the opinion you hold about yourself. When alone, it's your conscience that acts as both judge and guide. Acting against your principles in private betrays this internal harmony and chips away at your character. Practical Stoic practices for integrity in private moments. Self-reflection. The practice of nightly reflection was vital for Stoics. Seneca suggested reviewing your day before bed, asking, "What did I do well? Where did I falter? What can I improve tomorrow?" This habit keeps you honest with yourself and reinforces your commitment to integrity. Living according to virtues. Remember the Stoic virtues: courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. Do your private actions align with these ideals? Acting unjustly, even in private, erodes your character. As the Stoics remind us, virtue isn't circumstantial. It's a constant. Choosing simplicity. Many betray their integrity in moments of greed, indulgence, or laziness. Epictetus advised embracing simplicity, for when desires cloud your mind, you risk actions that betray your principles. In private moments, simplicity safeguards your integrity. Internal accountability. Instead of seeking external accountability, the Stoics encourage taking full responsibility for your actions. This mindset ensures you act rightly even when no one else will know or care. Challenges to private integrity in modern life. In today's world, the concept of privacy is blurred. From social media to constant connectivity, we're conditioned to act for public consumption. Yet, Stoicism teaches us that true contentment comes from acting rightly, not from the approval of others. Ask yourself, would you act differently if no one could post, share, or judge? The goal is to align your inner principles with your outer actions, no audience required. Inspirational examples from Stoicism. An example of private integrity can be drawn from Cato the Younger, who lived with frugality and restraint, even in private, rejecting luxuries others might indulge in without question. He demonstrated that living a virtuous life wasn't about the show, but about self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, constantly reminded himself to act justly, not because of his position, but because it was the right thing to do. His meditations were written not for the public, but as private reflections, showcasing his dedication to integrity. Applying Stoicism to your private life. Here are some actionable steps to align your actions in private with Stoic principles. Ask yourself if your actions honor your values. Before making any decision, pause to consider whether it aligns with the virtues you aspire to uphold. Treat private moments as sacred. They are not escapes from responsibility, but opportunities to strengthen your character. Build self-trust. By acting consistently with your principles, you cultivate self-respect and inner peace, core elements of Stoic happiness. True Stoicism is living virtuously even when no one is watching. As Seneca said, a good character is the only guarantee of everlasting, carefree happiness. When your private actions mirror your public virtues, you'll experience a deeper sense of fulfillment and authenticity. Integrity isn't a performance, it's a way of life. Live your philosophy not just when the world sees, but when it's just you and your conscience. That's the essence of Stoic character. Clue number 3, their treatment of the vulnerable. In Stoic philosophy, the principle of sympathia, or universal connectedness, underpins how we view and treat others. The Stoics believe that all humans are part of a single interconnected whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another, then, is contrary to nature." This interconnectedness suggests that how we treat those perceived as weaker or less influential reflects not just on our character, but on our understanding of our shared humanity. For the Stoic, respect, kindness, and fairness are universal duties, not privileges granted selectively. Why the vulnerable are the litmus test of character. The way someone treats individuals who have no power or influence over them. Service workers, homeless individuals, strangers, or even animals speaks volumes about their values. Stoicism reminds us that such interactions reveal the truth about our moral compass. Seneca put it simply, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. When there's no chance of reward or reciprocation, your actions stem solely from your character. A Stoic asks, are these actions virtuous, just, and kind? Key Stoic virtues in dealing with the vulnerable. Justice. Justice is one of the 4 Stoic virtues and serves as the foundation of how we interact with others. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that it is our duty to act justly in all matters, big or small. This means treating the vulnerable with the same respect and fairness as those in positions of power. Kindness and compassion. Although Stoicism is often misunderstood as emotionally detached, it strongly values compassionate action. Showing kindness to the vulnerable is a practical way of living Stoic values. It's not about pity, but about recognizing the shared dignity of all people. Self-control. Power often tempts individuals to act dismissively or cruelly toward those they perceive as weaker. The Stoic practice of self-control reminds us that we should respond with rationality and fairness, resisting impulses to assert dominance or superiority. Everyday applications. Practicing Stoicism with the vulnerable, service workers, and hospitality staff. How often do we see people treat servers, baristas, or retail workers poorly? A Stoic understands that these individuals deserve respect and gratitude. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself not to let ego or a sense of superiority dictate behavior. Consider this: if someone snaps at a waiter because of a mistake, is that a sign of strength? No, it reveals a lack of self-control and wisdom, qualities Stoicism champions. Strangers in need. Seneca encourages us to act generously and without expectation of reciprocity. Whether offering directions, helping someone carry a heavy load, or supporting a local charity, these small acts reflect a Stoic understanding of shared humanity. Animals. Though Stoicism is anthropocentric in its ethics, its principles extend to how we treat animals. Showing gentleness and care reflects a disposition rooted in self-control and compassion. Treating animals cruelly or neglectfully betrays a lack of alignment with Stoic values. The challenges of ego and hierarchies. Stoicism teaches us to beware of the ego, which often creates artificial hierarchies in our minds. People may see themselves as superior based on wealth, status, or power, leading to dismissive or cruel behavior toward those they perceive as lesser. Marcus Aurelius frequently reflected on the insignificance of such distinctions, reminding himself that in the grand scheme, we are all equal, part of the same nature and destined to the same end. Ego is the root of many failures to treat the vulnerable with dignity. Stoicism calls us to rise above these illusions and recognize our shared condition as human beings. Inspirational Stoic examples of justice and compassion. Cato the Younger. Cato, a staunch defender of justice, was known for treating slaves and the underprivileged with fairness and respect. In a society where cruelty to those of lower status was normalized, Cato's behavior stood out as an example of Stoic justice. Marcus Aurelius. Despite being emperor, Marcus Aurelius often reflected on his duty to act humbly and justly. He viewed his position as a servant to the greater good, ensuring that his power was used for fairness rather than oppression. Your Stoic challenge, reflecting on how you treat others. Ask yourself, how do you interact with those who serve you, such as waiters or customer service representatives? Do you show patience and understanding toward those struggling, whether financially, physically, or emotionally? Are your actions toward animals or those unable to advocate for themselves aligned with compassion and justice? Practicing Stoicism means being mindful of these everyday moments. Choose to embody virtue even in the small, unobserved interactions that others might overlook. To treat the vulnerable with dignity, fairness, and compassion is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's an affirmation that you value humanity as a whole and refuse to be swayed by ego or societal hierarchies. As Seneca reminds us, no one can live happily who is regard only for themselves and turns everything to their own advantage. You must live for your neighbor if you would live for yourself. In the end, the way you treat the most vulnerable isn't just a reflection of their worth, it's a reflection of yours. Clue number 4, reactions to insults and criticism. One of the core principles of Stoicism is mastering our emotional reactions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." This wisdom emphasizes that the events themselves, insults or criticism, are neutral. It's our interpretation that assigns meaning and stirs emotion. For the Stoic, insults and criticism provide an opportunity to practice self-control, humility, and reason. Why insults reveal more about the insulter than the target. Epictetus, in his discourses, taught that the opinions of others reflect their character and judgment, not your value. When insulted, ask yourself, does this criticism stem from ignorance, misunderstanding, or their personal issues? Does it reflect an accurate perception of who I am or what I've done? Recognizing that insults often reveal the insecurities or biases of the insulter gives us emotional distance from their words. This detachment is key to staying composed. The Stoic practice of emotional control. Pause before reacting. The Stoics advocate for taking a mental pause when faced with provocation. Instead of an immediate emotional outburst, practice a moment of silence. Marcus Aurelius encouraged asking yourself, is this worth my energy? Reframe the situation. Instead of perceiving the insult or criticism as an attack, reframe it as an opportunity to practice patience. Think of it as a test of your resilience. Seneca suggested, a wise man is unaffected by either fame or insult. Both are fleeting and insignificant in the grand scheme of life. Focus on what you can control. Remember the Stoic dichotomy of control. You can't prevent others from criticizing or insulting you, but you can control how you respond. This makes your reaction a reflection of your character, not theirs. Differentiating between insults and constructive criticism. Not all words aimed at us are baseless insults. Stoicism values humility and self-awareness, which means being open to feedback when it's justified. Here's how to differentiate. Examine the intent. Is the person genuinely trying to help, or are they speaking out of spite? Constructive criticism often comes with suggestions for improvement, while insults are aimed purely to harm. Consider the source. Is this person trustworthy and knowledgeable about the issue they're addressing? If so, their criticism might hold valuable lessons. Ask yourself if there's truth in it. Even poorly delivered feedback can contain insights. A true Stoic seeks improvement, even when it comes from an imperfect messenger. The ego, the main obstacle to managing criticism. Ego is a natural barrier to responding calmly to insults or criticism. The Stoic view of ego aligns with the need to detach from the opinions of others. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By recognizing that your ego inflames your reaction, you can diffuse its power and remain composed. Stoicism's advice on letting insults roll off. Imagine yourself above it. Epictetus taught that insults are like a bark from a dog. They make noise but have no real substance unless we grant it. When insulted, think of the words as harmless air. Adopt humor. Sometimes a lighthearted response disarms both the insult and the tension. Laughter can neutralize an insulter's power. Choose indifference. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly encouraged adopting indifference to external opinions. By practicing indifference, you can rise above the insult without letting it influence your emotions. Stoic exercises for handling criticism. The view from above. Imagine viewing the situation as if from space. Does this insult or critique matter in the grand scheme of life? Or is it a small moment you'll soon forget? This mental exercise helps reduce emotional intensity. Negative visualization. Anticipate insults as part of life. Seneca advised rehearsing possible slights in advance to prepare yourself emotionally. This way, when criticism comes, it feels less like an ambush. Practicing daily reflection. Each evening, review any emotional responses to insults or criticism. Did you react with composure? Where can you improve? Self-reflection strengthens your ability to stay calm in future scenarios. Historical examples of Stoics handling criticism. Cato the Younger. Cato was often mocked for his strict adherence to virtue. Instead of reacting with anger, he stayed true to his principles, letting his character speak louder than the criticisms. Marcus Aurelius. As Emperor of Rome, Marcus was undoubtedly criticized, both directly and indirectly. His approach was to focus on his duties and align his actions with virtue, choosing not to let public opinion sway his internal peace. How to apply this today? Modern life is full of opportunities to practice Stoicism in the face of criticism. At work, accept constructive feedback with gratitude and let insults roll off like water on a duck's back. Online, avoid engaging with negative comments that only serve to provoke. Instead, respond with either kindness or silence. In personal relationships, strive to listen first and react with reason, not emotion. Criticism is a teacher. Insults and criticism are inevitable. Stoicism teaches us that their value lies not in their delivery, but in how we respond. As Seneca said, "Someone despises me, that is their concern. But I shall not be found guilty of doing anything that deserves contempt." Remember, an insult loses its sting when you choose not to react emotionally. True strength is in mastering your response. Keep practicing Stoicism and let your calm response reflect your inner power. Clue number 5, power and wealth, the true magnifiers. The Stoics believed that external circumstances, like power and wealth, are neither inherently good nor bad. Instead, they are neutral tools, amplifiers of character. As Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Stoicism teaches that how a person uses power and wealth reveals their virtues or vices. These external assets can either elevate one's ability to do good or expose their inner flaws. Power and wealth are magnifiers, not corruptors. They don't change who you are. They reveal what was already there. What power and wealth reveal? Virtuous leadership versus tyranny. A Stoic in power uses their position for the collective good, prioritizing justice and fairness. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and a practicing Stoic, saw his position not as a privilege but as a responsibility. He continually reminded himself to act in service of his people and live modestly despite his imperial status. In contrast, someone with unchecked ambition or selfishness uses power to control and exploit, amplifying their ego and lack of virtue. Greed versus generosity. Wealth often tests a person's capacity for self-control and justice. A Stoic understands that material possessions are temporary and should be used to benefit others, not hoarded for self-indulgence. Seneca, one of the wealthiest Stoics, viewed his riches as resources to be handled virtuously, not sources of attachment or arrogance. Stoic virtues in the context of power and wealth. Temperance. This virtue teaches moderation and self-restraint. Whether one is rich or powerful, temperance keeps excess in check. A Stoic understands that wealth is meant for utility, not indulgence, and power for justice, not self-glorification. Justice. Justice ensures that power and wealth are used to serve, not exploit. A leader or wealthy individual who acts with justice creates harmony, while the unjust use of resources breeds resentment and chaos. Wisdom. Power and wealth require wise management. The Stoics remind us that we must make rational choices, aligning these external factors with higher principles. Wisdom ensures these tools are wielded for constructive purposes. Courage. It takes courage to resist the temptations of greed and the fear of losing status or wealth. A true Stoic faces these pressures with inner resolve, staying anchored to their values. Power and wealth as tests of Stoic discipline. Both power and wealth have a seductive quality that can pull individuals away from virtue. A Stoic anticipates these challenges and uses them as opportunities to practice self-mastery. Power tempts arrogance. It can be easy to believe in your infallibility, wanting control. A Stoic avoids this trap, continually reminding themselves of their mortality and fallibility, as Marcus Aurelius did through his meditations. Wealth tempts attachment. Accumulating wealth can lead to an obsessive need for more. Stoics counter this by practicing detachment, recognizing that true wealth comes from desiring less. Examples of Stoicism in action. Marcus Aurelius leadership. Marcus Aurelius inherited immense power but lived humbly, sharing wealth and ensuring his actions aligned with virtue. He wrote extensively about his fear of becoming corrupted by privilege, reflecting a constant commitment to self-awareness. Seneca's wealth. Seneca's enormous wealth contrasted with his philosophical teachings about detachment. Critics questioned the sincerity of his stoicism, but Seneca argued that possessing wealth was not inherently unstoic. How one uses it determines virtue. His writings emphasized viewing wealth as a tool for good, not a master. Applying Stoic principles to modern power and wealth. Use power to uplift, not dominate. Whether you manage a team at work or lead a community, approach your position with humility and service. Consider how your influence can positively impact those around you. View wealth as a means, not an end. Spend on what aligns with your values, and resist the urge to let possessions define your identity. Channel resources into meaningful endeavors, such as helping others or supporting causes you believe in. Practice gratitude and detachment. Recognize that both power and wealth are transient. Be thankful for what you have, but prepared to lose it without compromising your virtue. Adopt simple habits to resist corruption. Like Marcus Aurelius writing daily to remind himself of his principles, adopt practices that keep your ego in check. Regular self-reflection can help maintain a focus on what truly matters. Power and wealth in the digital age. In our modern era, power and wealth aren't limited to traditional hierarchies. They extend to influence and visibility. Social media influencers and CEOs alike face the same challenges as Roman emperors once did. Online platforms magnify character. Are your posts authentic, or are they self-serving? Are you using your influence to educate, inspire, and uplift, or to boast and compete? Financial success tests values. When wealth accumulates, how do you balance luxury with responsibility? Modern Stoicism teaches us to stay grounded, regardless of the number in our bank account or followers list. Power and wealth are neutral. As Stoicism teaches, power and wealth themselves are not inherently corrupting. They are tools that magnify our existing virtues or vices. Epictetus said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." This is a warning against the arrogance that often accompanies privilege. The true Stoic seeks to master themselves first, knowing that with or without power or wealth, their worth is determined by their character. The question isn't whether power and wealth are good or bad. It's whether you will use them to elevate yourself and others, or let them expose your inner flaws. Clue number 6, the stories they tell about themselves. In Stoicism, much emphasis is placed on self-awareness and living in alignment with one's principles. The stories people tell about themselves, both to others and internally, are powerful indicators of their character. Marcus Aurelius observed, "A person's worth is measured by the worth of what they value." By examining the narratives people create, we can see whether they value virtue, truth, and humility, or whether they are caught in self-promotion, denial, or vanity. The stories we tell are a form of self-definition. They shape our character and guide our actions. For the Stoic, the goal is to craft narratives rooted in self-improvement, humility, and alignment with nature, rather than egotism or delusion. The nature of self-narratives. How people speak about themselves often offers a glimpse into their true character. Are they constantly recounting tales of victory and triumph, emphasizing their achievements and accolades? Or do they share their challenges, mistakes, and moments of learning with humility and introspection? For the Stoics, the stories we tell about ourselves are much more than personal histories. They reflect how we view the world and our place in it. The Stoic approach to storytelling is grounded in self-awareness rather than self-promotion. They understood that excessive self-aggrandizement only distorts one's character. The purpose isn't to win the admiration of others, but to live in accordance with virtues like wisdom, justice, and temperance. The authentic Stoic story isn't about grandstanding, but about continual self-reflection and personal growth. Self-reflection over self-promotion. One of the Stoics' core values was humility. They believed that true character doesn't need to be flaunted, and that wisdom is reflected not in boastful speech, but in wise actions. As Epictetus noted, it is not the things themselves that trouble us, but our judgments about them. In the same way, it isn't what we achieve that defines us. It's how we respond to life and how honestly we recount our experiences with all their imperfections. If we reflect on our failures and flaws with honesty, the story we tell will naturally align with the Stoic ideal of improvement. The focus, according to Stoic philosophy, isn't on grand statements of virtue, but on embodying those virtues in action. One does not need to announce their wisdom. The wise person simply demonstrates it through their choices, their resilience, and their character over time. The danger of inflated self-narratives. There is a fine line between sharing one's experiences to reflect and reflecting to elevate oneself above others. Self-promotion in one's narrative can often obscure the true journey of growth. A person who continuously spins a narrative of unending success or perfection risks detaching from the reality of the human experience, which is inherently full of challenges and mistakes. The Stoics understood that boasting, or striving to be perceived a certain way, led to pride, one of the things that often distorted a person's true character. As Marcus Aurelius put it, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Here, he encourages us to look beyond words and actions that merely appear virtuous, to instead strive toward genuine virtue, regardless of whether others notice it. Authenticity in the Stoic story. The true Stoic narrative is one of authenticity and continuous growth. It embraces the imperfections and mistakes that shape character and resilience. Stoicism challenges us to reject the pursuit of glory for its own sake and instead develop narratives of personal integrity, learning, and ongoing improvement. The Stoic acknowledges their flaws, but also their power to change. The Stoic goal is to align their story with their actions and ensure that their external presentation matches their inner integrity. This means living a life that reflects virtues like courage, justice, and wisdom, regardless of how much acknowledgement or applause one might receive. Rather than presenting an image to be admired, the Stoic story is an ongoing, humble effort to live true to their ideals. Living the story you tell, what we tell others, and perhaps more importantly, what we tell ourselves, reveals our inner values in alignment with the Stoic ideal. A person who lives authentically, who doesn't inflate their successes or disguise their failures, gives a true reflection of the path they walk. Stoicism teaches us to look inward, to reflect on our choices, and to continuously improve. In the end, the Stoic doesn't need to broadcast their virtues, they simply embody them in their daily lives. As they continue on the path of self-mastery, their story is written not in words, but in the choices they make, the wisdom they practice, and the humility they demonstrate. Clue number 7, dealing with failure. The Stoic climb. Failure is inevitable. Yet, for Stoics, failure isn't a reason to despair. It's an opportunity for growth. Seneca stated, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Rather than seeing failure as a personal flaw, the Stoic views it as an essential part of the journey to self-improvement. The real challenge is how we respond to setbacks. Can we learn from them and move forward with even greater resilience? The dichotomy of control. Focus on what you can control. One of the core Stoic principles is the dichotomy of control. Some things are in our power, and others aren't. When failure strikes, the Stoic asks, what can I control in this situation? If external circumstances played a role in failure, it's important to accept them, but also focus on the response. This mindset shifts from frustration to constructive action, enabling the individual to adjust and continue without unnecessary emotional upheaval. Failure is growth. For Stoics, failure is a crucible for growth. They believe that hardships and setbacks aren't a sign of defeat but a chance to cultivate virtues like courage, resilience, and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius faced countless challenges during his reign, yet he used those struggles to refine his character. Similarly, we grow through failure, not because we fail, but because we choose to learn from it and move forward. Resilience and adaptability, overcoming failure. Failure can trigger emotional responses, self-blame, frustration, even the urge to quit. But Stoics focus on adaptability and mental strength. Instead of retreating, they persist and use failure as a stepping stone. This mentality fosters mental resilience and helps us stay focused on future growth, recognizing that failure is just part of the process, not the end of the journey. Acceptance and detachment. Stoicism encourages acceptance of failure, not with resignation, but with understanding. Failures, no matter how painful, are external events that don't define our worth. By detaching from emotional reactions to setbacks, Stoics can face adversity with calmness and clear judgment. This detached yet determined mindset frees them from lingering regrets and allows them to focus on what comes next. Failing forward. Embrace setbacks as opportunities. The Stoic view on failure isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about learning and progressing with every challenge. Every failure is an opportunity to apply Stoic virtues, wisdom, courage, and temperance. Rather than viewing setbacks as defeats, Stoics embrace them as tests of character, and each lesson learned strengthens their resolve to push forward. Virtue in the face of failure. For a Stoic, success is secondary to virtuous living. When facing failure, Stoics rely on their core virtues to guide their responses. Wisdom helps them reflect on what can be learned. Courage enables them to keep going. Justice drives them to remain honorable even in defeat, and temperance helps them maintain a steady mind. These virtues help them navigate through challenges, understanding that failure is an opportunity to refine their character rather than a setback. Reframe failure as part of growth. The Stoic philosophy teaches that failure is a natural part of life, not to be feared, but embraced. Every failure contains within it a lesson and an opportunity for self-improvement. By shifting our mindset and focusing on what we can control, we learn to see failure as a stepping stone, not an obstacle. As Epictetus wisely said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In the Stoic worldview, character is destiny. It's not shaped by what happens to us, but by how we choose to respond. These 7 clues don't just help us evaluate others, they serve as a mirror to examine our own behavior. Are we living with integrity, kindness, and resilience? If these insights resonated with you, let's keep the conversation going. Subscribe to the channel for more Stoic wisdom to help you navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. And remember, character isn't built in a day. It's shaped by every decision we make.